Is the TikTok ban actually a Trojan horse attack on Bitcoin, laying the foundations for central bank digital currencies? After going down the rabbit hole, it's all that and more. Welcome to 1984. We're going to show you why this bill is much bigger than TikTok, allowing executive authority to censor and punish anything the state deems to pose an undefined risk on any platform, both foreign and domestic. Stay until the finish. The corruption doesn't stop there. Ukraine is building a wall, and you're paying for it. We have a lot to cover. Let's get it. So, of course, we know the news. The House passed the TikTok bill forcing or requiring TikTok to divest from China or face U.S. ban. The vote was 352 to 65. So somehow the people who disagree on the border, pensions, healthcare, social security, immigration, energy, immigration, inflation, manufacturing, scientific research, debt, roads, bridges, and other incredibly important issues they should be focused and probably a little more united on. However, when it comes to funding war, grabbing power, removing our rights, increasing their pay, creating new agencies, and protecting their own, they are the best of friends and more united than all of us. This H.R. 7521 is a stupidly terrifying bill like the Patriot Act. It gives the president and the executive branch an unprecedented level of power to censor information.
Who's going to be prosecuted by this bill? Is it ByteDance or TikTok? Will they be taken to court? No. I mean, they're the target of this, but how do you elicit or effect a ban on them? By prosecuting Americans. The only way you can ban TikTok and the other companies from being here is to say what this bill says, which is we will bring civil action, the government will bring a civil action suit against you if you so much as host them here. If you have an app store that allows them to be here, you are an American or an American company, and you will be the target of this bill. Those are the only people who can be pursued under this bill. And I know it's in order to go after TikTok, or so they say. Well, I would just close by saying that, we're sitting here with phones made in China. We're wearing suits made in China. We drove cars here with chips that are made in China. And they're our foreign adversary. And by golly, we're going to do something about it. What are we going to do? You're going to tell Americans they can't put a piece of software on their computer. They can't go to certain websites that the president designates.
That guy wasn't the only one pissed off. Some representatives decide to read the bill. They actually read it and saw it for what it really was.
The Trump administration attempted to ban TikTok in 2020, and it was held that it couldn't do so in two court decisions because under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act are subject to the Berman Amendment, passed in 1988 by this body, to provide that in the interest of dealing with hostile foreign powers, the president can do all sorts of things with respect to commerce, but cannot ban the free flow of information across international boundaries.
So you have an entity over here, they divest. What makes them not then take the data, sell it to a data broker, and it gets washed and ends up still in the bad actor's hands?
And if we cared about Americans' data, then we would stop the sale of Americans' data universally, not just with China. What's to stop Congress or the United States government in the future from forcing the sale of another social media company claiming that it's protecting Americans' data from foreign adversaries?
The TikTok ban is not about TikTok. Don't be fooled. It's about politicians having the power to decide what thoughts, ideas, and information Americans are allowed to hear and see. It's about freedom. It's about destroying our democracy in the name of protecting it. Will we, the American people, willingly give up our freedom in the name of safety? Benjamin Franklin said, "Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Shout outs to Tulsi Gabbard with her post. Mark Moss also had a great post. We know where all this goes. Government controlling industry, socialism, communism, fascism, corporatism. It's all different shades of the same color. The collectivist nightmare. In Venezuela, Chavez took over the oil industries first, of course, for the people, and before it was over, he would walk through the downtown streets, deciding which store or shop to take for his own appetite. TikTok forced to divest, Trump forced to divest, and eventually Musk, X forced to divest. Whatever cannot be controlled by the state must be killed off. Of course, all in the name of safety, protection, and the greater good. Once the state starts down this path, we know where it ends, and it's not good. Now let's get into the meat of this bill, and you're gonna see just how bad it is and how it affects Bitcoin and all of us. We have a great thread we're gonna run through. We'll have that down in the notes for you, but going further down the rabbit hole, we found some shocking revelations with some old Twitter guard from the Twitter files connected with the Fed. Now, why would that be? The bill formalizes Yoel Roth, Fed intelligence and law enforcement relationships across the digital sphere. They failed to maintain these informal structures. Now they're going to demand them everywhere. The claim is this will allow us to counteract CCP influence domestically, but this bill has far larger scope than TikTok. It seeks to control and punish anything deemed unacceptable risk to the U.S. This bill seeks to formalize government control of speech through media platforms wearing my TikTok as a skin suit. This bill extends punitive power to any entity inside or outside the U.S. Here, the bill presents itself as targeting foreign organizations only, but the language in B2 extends to anything subject to jurisdiction of a foreign adversary. Twitter, Facebook, WeChat, GroupMe, Telegram, Signal operate under the jurisdiction of foreign adversaries. We also have coverage of communications tech that boasts 1 million users in the U.S., extending legal grounds to include any U.S. company. Further, it extends to cover holding down to a single share of stock. If a citizen of a foreign adversary owns a share, well, nice, that entity is now considered to be held by a foreign adversary and is subject to government oversight through this bill. Here's the meat. Secretary of Commerce has grounds to, quote, take action to identify, deter, disrupt, prevent, prohibit, investigate, or otherwise mitigate any risk coming from internet platforms. Risk is undefined, and importantly, risk needs no measurable outcomes. This section has it all. Digital economy, undefined, would cover bank runs, as Warren called for after the SVB collapse, and a cover-all clause that includes any wrong post. We have broad, punitive, and controlling powers delegated here to the Secretary of Commerce. Within 188D of an action, the Secretary can determine, within 180 days of an action, the Secretary can determine whether or not it poses an undue or unacceptable risk and mitigate it as needed. For example, the Secretary finds that certain Twitter user is spreading misinformation on something. The Secretary then has the power to establish structure and procedures, literally any action to mitigate the effects of the said disinformation. Don't worry, the bill does address TikTok, formalizing a structure for the president to order divestment and seizure of holdings that pose an undue threat to the U.S. Seizure include U.S. operations, assets, property, and data. Luckily, yes, the president has to announce if he is nationalizing a firm, unless, of course, he directs the attorney general to seek appropriate relief in district courts. So go do your judge shopping. Forced nationalization of communications companies. Hey, less administrative blowback. Sly roundabout sedition acts. The Secretary of Commerce has the ability to label any regime as a foreign adversary through classified communications. They can label a regime as an adversary for long-term patterns or serious instances of conduct adverse to the United States, broadly undefined. The Secretary is allowed to appoint technical advisory committees, trust and safety boards, to carry out these responsibilities, including designations of foreign persons subject to mitigation. Let's say the Commerce Secretary demands documented data disclosure from a platform. For example, give me your entire back end. Well, that information can be requested by any Fed, local, or state entity as long as it's important to national security. Imagine the boon to the leak state. You are now explicitly subjected to fines of $1 million or 20 years in prison. It gets better. Any violations of this act would be tried exclusively in a DC appeals court, one of the furthest down Clown World University Avenue in the country. This bill is the disinformation class's wet dream, punishing anything posing a risk undefined on any platform, with clauses covering domestic and foreign, with fines and jail time. They have developed extrajudicial enforcement structures. Now they will have the legal authority. I want to say this just criminalizes shit posting, but this has massive implications and risks to Bitcoiners. They want to criminalize risks to the digital economy. CBDCs are coming. FedSwap is already here. You've been talking down on the CBDC Fed coin. That's $1 million fine, 20 years in prison. Welcome to the gulag. Using a platform to trade Bitcoin, using a VPN to trade on apps they've banned, using an alternative currency, promoting Bitcoin over CBDCs? Straight to jail. The bill to ban TikTok is so they can go after banning X and anything they can find that disagrees with the state, its narrative, and its agenda. Now let's get into this. Yoel Roth, right at the beginning of this thread, Fed intelligence and law enforcement relationships across the digital sphere. Who is this guy? Well, the guy behind punishing people on woke Twitter, and this partnership you need to imagine as a future way of enforcement of a political ideology onto the populace through a central bank digital currency. And the types of things this guy and those in the WEF Agenda 2030 camp, they're not pro-freedom. Just look at some of this material related to Roth. Go check that out, dive into the Twitter files, and imagine the Orwellian nightmare that lies before us. Welcome to the New World Order. We got this from the GOP Majority Whip. If you don't think the Fed is pursuing a CBDC, think again. Jay Powell lied in his testimony. He said we're nowhere near anything on that CBDC thing. Shame, shame. The Fed gave this to my staff during a presentation earlier this Congress. They view a CBDC as one of their key duties. Look, I don't use TikTok, never had an account. I'm not pro TikTok, but I've wondered if any of these people really considered the 170 million users and consumers when they did this or rushed this through when there's all these other things going on, or they needed a boogeyman to propel an attack on speech the state disagrees with. They are bought and paid for by the special interests. As this guy exposed in South Carolina, I have no idea this man's affiliation, party, or whatever, but damn it, this is awesome and we need more of this.
I get that the people in Colombia, that the lobby wants me to either not vote or to vote green on this. But my constituents want me to vote red, and they want their tax money spent on core government functions, on their roads, on their schools. That's what they want their money spent on. They don't want us in here trying to play this government planning thing where we in our bureaus can figure out where the job should be, who should be employed, how much money should be allocated where in the private sector. It never works. It's socialism. It's never worked anywhere before. So what are we doing trying to do it here?
Hey, before the big reveal, let's take a minute to recognize our sponsors, the Bitcoin Way. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way. They've got 25 years of experience in cybersecurity. They are your IT team in the Bitcoin world. Whether you're just getting started setting up your first Bitcoin wallet or node, or you're looking into UTXO management, coin joining, multi-sig security, inheritance planning, or accepting Bitcoin payments, they've got you covered. Not only that, they are focused on all things cybersecurity, Bitcoin security. They have you covered. Time to go from the why Bitcoin to how Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin Way will hold your hand and guide you through every step of the process. Bitcoin's never been easier. Hey, if you're looking to get started, you can book a free 30-minute call using that link below. Take a look at this. I mean, democracy in action. Everywhere, am I right? Democracy is a scam, ladies and gentlemen. Canada introduces a bill to lock up citizens for life if they say the wrong thing. The bill reads, everyone who commits an offense that is motivated by hatred based on race, national, ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for life. Isn't it reassuring to know they care so much about our feelings? To further display the complete clown world we live in, which we have record homelessness and a migrant crisis, but does the state, as mentioned earlier in South Carolina, care about you? Oh no. The state is the great scam that only exists at the expense of everyone else. And this is what they do with the money they stole from you. Ukraine's building the wall and you are paying for it. Please financially regulate your $2.3 trillion deficit and $34 trillion debt before lecturing any of us or anyone on what's truth, fiction, right, wrong. Learn math first. While the attempt to enact the WEF's Global Sedition Acts is gaining momentum, be sure to check out my article on Substack. We called this a long time ago. But good news, there is precedent in the Montana case shows us this unconstitutional act is likely to be struck down, but we have to keep up the pressure and we have to get our Bitcoin off the exchanges. Hey guys, hope you like this one. Be sure to like, subscribe, share that sound money gospel, give us a pump. Make sure you're following us on Twitter with all the breaking news. Set those those notifications, keep tuning in, and we will be your guide through the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. I'll catch you all next week. Have a great weekend. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.